Why did everyone assume she didn't belong there? The coffee mug shattered at her feet before anyone bothered to look at her face. Ceramic skidded across the breakroom floor, sharp fragments catching the fluorescent light like broken teeth. Laughter followed. Casual. Lazy. Cruel in the way only people certain of their own importance could manage. "Watch where you're going, Grandma." She didn't respond, didn't rush. She lowered herself carefully, knees protesting in a familiar, manageable way. Pain was just information, nothing more. She gathered each shard slowly, methodically, as if the mess were hers to begin with. Around her, the seals had claimed the breakroom like conquered ground. Boots on tables, gear bags blocking walkways, phones raised, screens glowing, fingers tapping captions that would travel far beyond this base. Lieutenant Peterson leaned back in his chair, scrolling, unconcerned. When he finally glanced up, it was with the bored curiosity of someone flicking at an insect. "You were Army or something, right?" he said. "Motor pool supply." Laughter again, louder this time. She dropped the last shard into the trash. Her breathing stayed even. 4 counts in, hold, 4 counts out, hold. The rhythm had kept her alive in places where mistakes didn't earn embarrassment, only body bags. "I'll manage," she said quietly. She stood, smoothing her scrubs, and walked back into the emergency department without another word. Behind her, a phone camera followed, zooming in on the way she moved, deliberate, unhurried, almost careful. Someone muttered that she moved like his grandmother after hip surgery. Someone else added a laughing emoji to the caption. They didn't know what they were watching. The base hospital at night ran on a different kind of order. Quieter, tighter. No sunlight to soften edges. No visitors to dilute urgency. She moved through it like she had memorized every square inch because she had. Trauma Bay 12. Supply cabinets, crash carts. Everything placed exactly where it needed to be. Gauze pads aligned 4 inches apart. IV bags hung at regulation height. Labels forward, always forward. Her hands worked without conscious thought. Muscle memory didn't care about age. It didn't care about assumptions. "Hey, Nurse Ratched," a voice called. She didn't look up. Petty Officer Williams leaned against her supply cart, smirk fixed in place. "We need our clearances now." "Triage protocol," she replied calmly. "Contractor with burns comes first." He kicked the cart. Supplies scattered across the sterile floor. "Oops," he said. "Grandma wouldn't want a safety violation on her record." She knelt again, second time tonight. Her left hand twitched slightly as she gathered the supplies. Phantom pain, Kandahar, a missing ring finger that still tried to move when her mind wasn't watching. She focused on the rhythm instead. 4 in, 4 out. Across the room, an older man watched quietly. Master Sergeant Roy Thompson, janitor now, once something else entirely. Vietnam still lived in his hands, in the way he stood, in the way his eyes tracked movement. He noticed how she sorted medications without reading labels. By interaction risk, by dosage concentration, by route of administration. "Haven't seen anyone do that since July," he murmured. She didn't answer, didn't need to. The SEALs had taken over the television again, streaming their own social media feeds. Peterson posted a video of her struggling with a crash cart. The caption was already gaining traction. Jokes, insults, comments from people who had never seen a real trauma bay, never smelled blood that wouldn't wash out of your clothes. She saw it during her break. Black coffee, paper cup, no mug tonight. Dr. Kim stopped beside her. "You could file a complaint." "No point," she said. "They're making your shift miserable." "I've had worse." She didn't say where, or when, or how worse had been defined back then. At 100, the door slammed open. A Marine, drunk, angry, big enough to be dangerous even without alcohol. Security moved in, cautious but unprepared. The SEALs leaned forward, interested now, waiting for entertainment. She stepped behind the Marine's peripheral vision. and placed 2 fingers just behind his ear. He dropped in 2 seconds. Silence. Lucky nerve pinch, Peterson said, but his voice carried uncertainty. Thompson leaned toward an orderly. That's forced recon takedown, he whispered. Haven't seen it since '68. She checked the Marine's vitals. Steady. He'd wake with a headache and questions no one would answer. Later, under surgical lights, Santos demanded she change his bandages slowly. Wanted to watch her hands. Wanted to find something to mock. What happened to your finger? He asked. Workplace accident. He laughed. What filing cabinet? She said nothing. The truth lived somewhere far away, buried under sand and smoke, and a man screaming her name over a radio that never answered back. Her phone buzzed in the supply closet, a video from her daughter. Mom, the girl said softly, I know nights are hard. I lit a candle for you and Dad. She touched the screen gently. Her daughter didn't know the whole truth. That Dad had died in an operation she was overwatching. That she'd counted bodies through scope glass trying to reach him. That sometimes she still heard his voice in the space between heartbeats. Peterson caught her coming out of the closet, phone raised, smiling. Need a cry break. She passed him without speaking. In her mind, distance, angle, pressure points, 3 ways to incapacitate without marks, all filed away, all unused. By 200, the WhatsApp group had a name. Grandma Watch. Photos, videos, commentary. What they didn't notice was how she moved deliberately, how she checked every medication 3 times, how she followed protocols written in blood long before any of them had earned their tridents. At 2:30, Santos extended his foot. The cart tipped, pills scattered like confetti. She knelt again, 3rd time. Thompson joined her, sorting pills faster than any pharmacist. Where'd you serve? He asked quietly. Here and there. He nodded, sounds classified. At 300, a surprise evaluation was announced. Simulation, mass casualty. Peterson took command. Reeves' inventory, stay out of the way. She noticed the labels immediately. Switched. Dangerous. A prank that would kill people in real combat. She started fixing them, but the timer began before she could finish. Failed, the evaluator said flatly. Peterson smiled. This is why civilians shouldn't work military medicine. She didn't argue, just kept correcting what she could. At 400, the radio crackled. Medevac inbound, 8 casualties, 2 critical. The room changed. Real chaos didn't announce itself. It arrived quietly, then all at once. She set the bays differently, positioned tools based on injury patterns. Peterson told her to stand down. She did. The helicopters arrived. Blood, screams. Santos froze at the first arterial spray, hands shaking, wrong tourniquet. She stepped forward. Ward blocked her. Protocol, the commander said. The Marine on table 2 began to die. She watched, counted heartbeats, calculated time left, watched Santos break. When the second Marine coded, something inside her settled. She pushed past Ward. Move now. Her voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. For half a heartbeat, the trauma bay froze. Then she took command. And everything changed. Why did the room fall silent the moment she spoke? For half a heartbeat, no one moved. The monitors still screamed. Blood still pooled across the floor. The rotor wash from the helicopters rattled the doors. But something deeper had shifted, something instinctive, as if every trained body in the room recognized a voice that did not argue with chaos, but commanded it. Table 2 is priority 1, she said, calm, precise. Femoral bleed. You have 3 minutes before irreversible shock. Peterson opened his mouth, then closed it again. His authority, forged through years of training and reinforced by rank, hesitated under the weight of something older and sharper than protocol. She didn't look at him. Johnson, tension pneumothorax on table 4. Decompress now. Second intercostal space, midclavicular, don't think, move. Johnson moved. Williams, table 6 is expectant. You stay with him. Talk to him, keep him warm. Williams swallowed hard, expectant. Yes, she said, already sliding into position beside a coding Marine. That means you don't let him die alone. There was no cruelty in her tone, no hesitation either. Peterson tried to reclaim control. Reeves, stand down. Get off that chest, she snapped, finally looking at him. You're breaking ribs without circulation. He stepped back without realizing he'd done it. Her hands took over compressions, perfect rhythm, elbows locked, depth exact, 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Her lips moved as she counted in a language no one recognized. Not English, not quite. Santos hovered nearby, blood coating his gloves. I can't, there's too much. She didn't raise her voice, didn't shame him. Wide tourniquet, she said, high and tight, 3 inches above the wound now. His hands shook. If you don't move, she continued evenly, he dies in 2 minutes, choose. Santos chose. Her body worked the way it always had when everything else fell apart. Not fast, never frantic, efficient, intentional. Every movement meant something. Every second mattered. The Marine under her hands gasped. Color returned, faint but real. Around her, the SEALs moved like men waking from a trance. They followed orders they hadn't questioned, because their bodies recognized competence before their pride could interfere. The challenge coin slipped from her scrub pocket. It hit the tile with a sound that cut through everything. Metal on tile. Every service member knew that sound. Peterson bent to pick it up automatically. The reflex was older than thought. His fingers froze when he read the engraving. Mars Sniper School, Stone Bay. Instructor. Call sign Ghost 7. His breath caught. He pulled out his phone with hands that had steadied weapons under fire, now trembling. Classified database. Clearance he'd never used for curiosity. The serial number populated slowly. Ellen Reeves. Gunnery Sergeant. Scout Sniper. Confirmed kills, 63. A photo loaded. Younger, camouflaged, ghillie suit. A rifle held like an extension of her body. A target beside her, every round through the same hole. Peterson's world rearranged itself in silence. Santos saw the screen. His legs gave out. He dropped to his knees. Ghost 7, he whispered. The name moved through the room like a current. Even the wounded seemed to sense it. A legend spoken in training rooms. A name instructors referenced when explaining what impossible really meant. She didn't notice. She was too busy saving lives. Clamp that bleeder, she told Santos. Curved Kelly, not the straight. He obeyed like a student, reverent now. You trained me, Peterson said quietly. Stone Bay, 2009. She didn't look up. Your breathing still hitches on the exhale. I told you that would cost you precision. He swallowed. Why didn't you tell us? Because good medics don't freeze, because of reputation. Commander Ward stepped forward, her posture altered, her authority recalibrating in real time. Evaluation complete, she said. SEAL Team 4 failed medical crisis response. Peterson looked up sharply. This was a setup. Ward held up a tablet. 3 missions in 4 months compromised by medical panic under fire. Command embedded Gunnery Sergeant Reeves to observe. Santos exhaled shakily. You were watching us all night. She adjusted an IV drip. Snipers don't rush, we observe, then act when it matters. By 500, all 8 casualties were stabilized. 8. What should have been body bags became hospital beds. The trauma bay settled into exhausted quiet, sweat-soaked, blood-streaked, alive. Who are you? One Marine asked weakly. She smiled faintly. Just a night nurse. Thompson chuckled from the doorway. One who put 37 Taliban down in 6 hours protecting an extract route. That's classified, she said. Not anymore, Ward replied softly. Peterson stood in front of her afterward, challenge coin extended like an apology. We dishonored ourselves. You acted like men who forgot that uniforms don't save lives, she said. People do. How do we fix this? Santos asked. You train, you listen, and you remember that knowledge doesn't care what someone looks like. The posts were deleted, apologies issued, training ordered. At shift change, Peterson stood before 40 exhausted medical staff members and bowed his head. We were wrong. She watched from the back, silent, uninterested in victory. Later at the memorial wall, she placed the challenge coin beneath a familiar face. Still teaching them, Rodriguez? Peterson found her there. He was your spotter. Yes. 6 years together. He talked too much. He talked about his kids, Peterson said. She closed her eyes briefly. That's how I stayed human. Why nursing? He asked. She didn't turn around. Because every medic I train might be the one who saves someone else's child. She left as the sun rose. In the parking lot, a young Marine snapped to attention and saluted. She didn't return it. She just lifted her hand slightly. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It acts. Why did she think the night was finally over? The parking lot was quiet in that deceptive way military bases mastered just before something went wrong. The air smelled like asphalt cooling after heat and jet fuel that never really left the ground. She unlocked her old Honda Civic, checked beneath it with a small mirror, then slid into the driver's seat. Muscle memory. Habits carved deep enough to survive retirement, age, and civilian titles. The engine turned over smoothly. She exhaled once slow. Then her phone vibrated. Base hospital, multiple missed calls. She hadn't even reached the main gate yet. She turned the car around without hesitation. By the time she arrived, the emergency department was no longer medical chaos. It was administrative chaos, the dangerous kind. NCIS vehicles outside, security tightened. Ward standing at the door, jaw set, eyes already apologetic. We need you now, the commander said. My shift doesn't start until. There's been an incident. That word again, always dressed up, always hiding consequences. Inside, she found Santos on a gurney, skin flushed an angry red, breathing shallow and uneven. Peterson stood beside him, stripped of confidence, guilt hanging off him like extra weight. We were practicing, Peterson said too quickly. After last night, trying to improve. What medication? She asked, already checking vitals. Expired morphine, Santos rasped. Only a little past date. Her stomach dropped, not fear, calculation. Morphine didn't just expire, it decayed. How long ago? 2 hours. She was already pulling out her phone, opening a medical reference app she'd first learned to trust in a tent hospital overseas, when manuals had been useless and guesswork killed people. Naloxone now, she ordered. Activated charcoal, prep dialysis. His kidneys are shutting down. Dr. Kim arrived mid-sentence, scanning her notes. How do you know the degradation pattern? Kabul, she said. 2010. Supplies were poisoned. We learned fast or people died. The room moved around her again, not because of rank, because she was right. Peterson hovered, useless. Tell me what to do. Watch his respirations, she said without looking up. Below 12, you tell me immediately. The irony didn't escape her. The man who had mocked her competence now waited for permission to breathe. An hour stretched into something longer. Santos stabilized. Williams vomited into a basin, pale and shaking. This feels like karma, he muttered. This is stupidity, she corrected, adjusting his IV. Karma would be letting you die. NCIS arrived before dawn. Agent Rivera, clean haircut, calm eyes, the kind that cataloged everything. "Your reputation precedes you," he said. "Just Ellen," she replied, "civilian nurse." Civilians don't diagnose degraded morphine poisoning from memory. She met his gaze briefly. "I'm good at my job." By evening, word had spread across the base. Ghost 7 had saved the SEALs who mocked her, twice. She returned to her night shift like nothing had changed, but everything had. Young corpsmen asked questions. Doctors sought her opinion. Respect followed her now, heavy and unwanted. Invisibility had been safer. Thompson found her reorganizing supplies. "Can't put the ghost back in the bottle." "I'm not trying to." He studied her. "SEAL Team 6 has been asking." "Not interested." "They are." At 200, Corporal Maria Rodriguez walked into the ER with a dislocated shoulder. Ellen recognized the last name immediately. The way fate enjoyed cruelty. "Training injury," Maria said through clenched teeth. Ellen kept her face neutral. "Reset the joint cleanly, efficiently." "My dad was a spotter," Maria said afterward. "Died in Afghanistan. His sniper tried to save him." Ellen secured the sling. "He did everything he could." Maria nodded slowly. "I wonder if that sniper made it home." Ellen didn't answer. Later, Thompson spoke quietly. "She's Rodriguez's daughter." "I know. You've been paying her loans anonymously. She earned her place." At sunrise, Ellen sat through a hearing she hadn't asked for. Admirals, captains, polished wood tables and polished lies. "Expired medications," Admiral Chen said. "Unauthorized training." Peterson stood. "We were trying to improve." "Illegally," Chen corrected. Ellen was called forward. She explained calmly. "Chemistry, degradation, cause and effect. No emotion, just facts." "Why are you still here?" Chen asked finally. "Night shift nursing." Ellen glanced through the glass wall. Maria walked past in uniform. "I have unfinished business." "Silence." "You'll supervise additional training," Chen said at last. "Paid temporary." Ellen hesitated, then nodded once. Weeks passed. Night shifts, morning training, short sleep. The SEALs learned not just techniques, limits, mortality. "Combat medicine isn't about being brave," Ellen told them. "It's about staying present when everything in you wants to run." Maria began observing sessions, watching Ellen closely, too closely. One night Maria requested privacy. She held out a photo. Afghanistan, two figures barely visible. "That's you," Maria said. "Yes." "Tell me about him." Ellen did. The jokes, the wind reading, the letters home, the pride. "What were his last words?" Ellen played the recording. Maria cried without sound. "Stop carrying his death," Maria said finally. "Carry his life." Something inside Ellen shifted, not healed, but lighter. Rivera returned once, asked about Kandahar, about a shot that shouldn't have been taken. Ellen looked at him calmly. "I protected my spotter." Rivera left. That night, Ellen slept without dreaming for the first time in years. In the quiet, she understood something she'd avoided. She hadn't failed Rodriguez. She had survived him. And survival carried responsibility. Sometimes redemption isn't loud. Sometimes it shows up quietly, asking you to stay. Why did the past refuse to stay buried once she finally stopped running from it? The first thing Ellen noticed was the silence. Not the calm kind. Not the earned quiet that followed a job well done. This silence pressed in, heavy and alert, the kind that came right before something broke open. She felt it while reorganizing a trauma bay that didn't need reorganizing, while double-checking medication logs that were already correct, while standing still with her hands resting on stainless steel and her mind drifting somewhere far from the present. 7 years she had hidden in routine, in night shifts, in anonymity. She had told herself it was peace. It was. It was containment. The base had changed around her. People lowered their voices when she walked by. Young corpsmen straightened without being told. Doctors waited for her nod before pushing medication. Peterson's team trained harder than any unit she'd seen in years, not out of fear but respect. Real respect. The kind that comes after being stripped bare by failure. She should have felt satisfaction. Instead, she felt exposed. At 300, while the hospital hummed with low-level urgency, Thompson found her staring at a wall monitor she hadn't been watching. "Rivera been asking questions again," he said. She didn't turn. "He can ask. He's digging into Kandahar." Her fingers paused mid-movement. "How deep?" "Deep enough to reach things that were never meant to surface." She exhaled slowly. 4 in, hold, 4 out, hold. "I followed the rules of engagement." "I know," Thompson said. "So do I, but rules don't stop politics." That night she noticed the car. Not obvious, professional, 3 vehicles back, switched lanes when she did, fell back when traffic thinned. She confirmed it without emotion, the way she once confirmed wind shifts through dust and heat shimmer. She let them follow her home. Her apartment showed no signs of forced entry. That was the problem. A drawer closed a fraction too tight. Dust disturbed on a shelf she never touched. Someone had been inside. Looking. She checked her emergency bag. Untouched. Good. Whoever it was didn't know what they were looking for. Her phone rang. Unknown number. "Gunnery Sergeant Reeves," a voice said smoothly. "Or do you prefer Ellen now?" She didn't respond. "Someone wants to know what really happened in Kandahar." "Not interested. Rodriguez's daughter is." The words hit harder than gunfire. "Don't go near her," Ellen said, her voice dangerously flat. "Relax, not a threat, just advice. Some truths are better revealed by friends." The line went dead. She sat in the dark for a long time, the city lights below her apartment blurring into something that looked like tracer fire if you didn't focus too hard. 7 years of control, slipping. The next shift, Maria Rodriguez waited for her at the nurse's station. "Can we talk?" Maria asked quietly. Ellen nodded, led her to an empty exam room, closed the door. Maria held up a tablet, a photo, Afghanistan, 2 figures barely visible in scrub and shadow. "That's you," Maria said. Ellen didn't deny it. "Yes." The word landed between them like a truth long overdue. "You were Ghost 7, Maria said, not a question." "Yes." Maria's composure cracked, then reassembled itself with practiced discipline. "Marine blood. They told me his sniper tried to save him. 17 kills in 6 minutes. Would have been 18, Ellen said softly, and your father alive." Maria shook her head. "That's not failure." They sat in silence, heavy, necessary. "Tell me about him," Maria said, "the real him." So Ellen did. She talked about long overwatches and terrible jokes, about how Rodriguez could read wind by watching insects move, about how he talked about his kids when the night got too quiet, when the scope felt too close to the world. "He was proud of you," Ellen said, "especially you." Maria's jaw tightened. "I found the lone records." Ellen looked down. "Dad wouldn't have wanted secrets." "I know." Maria stood, packing, then stopped in front of her. "You don't owe me," Maria said. "You don't owe him. War isn't fair, he knew that." Ellen's voice was barely audible. His last words. Maria hesitated. "Were you recording?" Ellen unlocked her phone, a hidden folder, one file she had never opened without consequence. She pressed play. Rodriguez's voice filled the room, strained, urgent, alive. "Tell Maria I'm proud of her. Tell her to be better than us." Static explosion, silence. Maria cried without sound. Ellen didn't move. Some grief demanded space. When Maria stood, her eyes were steady. "Stop carrying his death," she said. "Carry his life." She left. Something shifted inside Ellen, not healing but permission. Rivera appeared later that night, badge visible, questions prepared. "The commander you killed in Kandahar," he said, "CIA asset." He was armed, moving toward wounded Marines. "Some think you knew." "I knew my spotter was about to die." She met his eyes fully. "I have footage, logs, witnesses. If the agency wants this public, I'm ready." Rivera closed his notebook. "You've thought this through." "I've had 7 years." He left. The next morning, Ellen stood in front of a room full of SEALs and one observing corpsman named Maria Rodriguez. "Triage isn't about saving everyone," Ellen said. "It's about saving the most." She presented a scenario: 8 casualties, limited resources. "Choose." They debated, calculated, hesitated. Then Ellen changed the slide. "Now your best friend is expectant, and the child is immediate." Silence. "You will face this," Ellen said. "Better to confront it here than fail out there." Maria spoke softly. "Emotion is a luxury." Ellen met her gaze. "Your father said the same." After training, Admiral Chin pulled Ellen aside. "The Kandahar matter is closed," she said, "permanently." Ellen nodded, didn't trust her voice. They walked through the cemetery together, stopped at a grave. Master Chief Williams. His widow had left a note. "Thank you for trying. Rest easy, Ghost 7." Ellen closed her eyes. Another weight lifted. That evening she returned to her night shift. Different but the same: patience, IVs, quiet heroism no one filmed. At dawn she drove past the base, past the range where she'd teach Maria, past the hospital where she healed. She understood now. She wasn't hiding. She had been standing watch. And the watch wasn't over yet. Why did it feel harder to teach than it ever had to fight? The room was full before she arrived. That alone unsettled her. Peterson's team sat in the front row, backs straight, notebooks open like recruits again. Santos leaned forward, jaw tight with concentration, the arrogance burned out of him by reality. Williams whispered to Johnson, then stopped when Ellen entered. Maria stood near the back, arms crossed, observing with a focus that felt uncomfortably familiar. Ellen closed the door behind her and let the silence settle. "Combat medicine," she began, "is not about bravery." A few brows lifted. This wasn't what they expected. "It's about staying present when everything in you wants to disappear." She watched that land, watched the subtle shifts. They were listening now, not because of her past, but because of what they had already lost. She projected a scenario on the screen: 8 casualties, limited supplies, incomplete information. "You have 1 minute to decide," she said. "After that, people die." Peterson spoke first, clear, calculated, the officer again. Santos followed, more hesitant but grounded. Williams overthought. Johnson deferred to rank instead of priority. She let them finish. Then she dismantled their plan quietly, not harshly, precisely. "You assumed control would come from authority," she said. "It doesn't, it comes from clarity." She changed the variables, added noise, removed a medic, introduced friendly fire injuries. "Now decide again." Sweat appeared, not from exertion, from pressure. This was harder than the range, harder than bullets, because this required them to imagine failure before it happened. During a break, Santos approached her, eyes down. "I froze," he said. "In the trauma bay, I've never frozen before." "Yes, you have," Ellen replied. "You just survived long enough not to notice." He swallowed. "How do you stop it?" "You don't," she said. "You learn to work through it. Fear doesn't disqualify you. Pretending you don't feel it does." Maria watched from across the room, absorbing everything, not just technique, philosophy. Later on the range, Ellen stood beside her. "This isn't about killing," Ellen said, handing Maria the rifle. "It's about understanding." Maria nodded. Dad used to say the rifle teaches patience. He was right. They worked slowly, fundamentals, breathing, sight picture, trigger discipline. Ellen corrected gently the way Rodriguez once corrected her. "You anticipate," Ellen said. "Let the shot come to you." Maria's grouping tightened. Ellen felt it then, the circle closing. That night, Thompson cornered her in the supply room. "You're changing them," he said. "I'm teaching." "That's more dangerous." "Why?" "Because they'll carry you with them." She understood what he meant. Every lesson stayed. Every correction echoed later in moments she'd never witness. Responsibility didn't end at graduation. Rivera returned again, quieter this time, less confident. "Some files disappeared," he said, "above my pay grade." "That happens," Ellen replied. He studied her. "You ever regret the shot?" Ellen didn't answer immediately. "No," she said finally, "I regret the cost." He nodded, left. Weeks blurred together. Hospital, training, sleep measured in hours, not nights. Ellen moved through it all with the same steady rhythm. One evening, Maria stayed behind after training. "Would he have wanted me to know everything?" she asked. Ellen considered carefully. "He would have wanted you to know enough to move forward," she said, "not enough to be trapped." Maria smiled faintly. "He trusted you." That trust still felt heavy. At dawn, Ellen stood at the memorial wall again. New photos, old names. She touched Rodriguez's picture. "I'm still here," she whispered. "I'm still doing the work." That night, for the first time, she didn't dream of scopes or crosshairs. She dreamed of classrooms, of hands steadying other hands, of voices calm in chaos. Teaching wasn't easier than fighting. It was heavier, because the outcome wasn't hers alone anymore. And maybe that was the point. "You said." "Zix," ChatGPT said. Why did the quiet feel heavier than any battlefield she'd ever known? Ellen noticed it before the ceremony even began. The way sound softened, like the bass itself was holding its breath. Boots hit pavement in clean rhythm. Flags hung still despite the breeze. Faces she recognized, some older, some painfully young, stood shoulder to shoulder, united by something no briefing ever explained properly. She stood off to the side, always did. Not hiding, just refusing center stage. Maria Rodriguez was in the front row, uniform pressed, eyes forward, strong, composed, ready. Ellen felt the familiar pull in her chest, not fear, not pride exactly. Something quieter, something that felt like completion trying not to announce itself. The Admiral cleared his throat. "We are here to recognize service," he said, "that rarely seeks recognition." Ellen almost smiled at that. She had heard applause before. Loud, hollow. This wasn't that. This was restrained, earned, weighted with understanding. Her name was called last. Not her rank, not her call sign. Just her name. Ellen Reeves stepped forward. For a moment memory tried to intrude. Kandahar, the wind, the crack of the rifle, the weight of a decision that never fully left her bones. She pushed it aside. The Admiral held out the citation. His voice dropped just slightly. "For extraordinary service in preservation of life, mentorship under fire, and moral courage beyond operational requirements." Moral courage. She accepted the document, saluted once, sharp, final. As she turned, her eyes met Maria's. Maria nodded, small, fierce. That was enough. The base returned to routine within hours. That was the thing about service, it absorbed even its own ceremonies. Ellen returned to the hospital that night. Same hallways, same hum of machines, same quiet urgency. A young private came in with a compound fracture shock setting in fast. Ellen moved without thought, hands steady, voice calm. "Stay with me," she said. "Tell me your name." The private did. His voice cracked. He was 18. She remembered being 19, thought she was immortal then. Later, Thompson handed her a cup of coffee. "Black," he said, "the way you like it." "Thanks." They stood in silence. "You could have left," he said finally. "Taken a desk job, consultant money, peace." "I know. Why didn't you?" Ellen watched a gurney roll past. A nurse laughed softly at something a patient said. "Because peace doesn't always mean absence," she replied. "Sometimes it means presence." Maria joined them after shift change. "I got my assignment," she said. "Recon unit starts in 3 weeks." Ellen felt the old instinct rise. Protect, warn, hold back. She didn't. "That unit needs you," Ellen said instead, "and you need it." Maria hesitated. "I'm scared." "So was your father," Ellen said gently. "He went anyway." Maria breathed out. "Will you still be here?" "For as long as they'll let me." That night Ellen packed a small box at home, things she no longer needed, medals she never wore, papers she'd memorized years ago. At the bottom of the drawer was the rifle logbook. She opened it one last time. Ghost 7. She closed it and didn't put it back. The next morning she donated the book to the archive. No explanation, no ceremony. Let history decide what it mattered. Weeks passed. Maria deployed, wrote when she could, short messages, clear-eyed observations, no bravado. Ellen replied with questions, not advice. Let Maria find her own answers. One night a message came late. "Made my first call today. Saved 2, lost 1. I understand now." Ellen stared at the screen for a long time. Then she typed back. "You will carry them all. That means you're doing it right." The hospital grew quieter as winter approached. Fewer accidents, more reflection. Ellen trained new staff, let others lead when they were ready. She didn't correct every mistake anymore. Trust was also a lesson. On the anniversary of Kandahar, Ellen returned to the range alone. No rifle, just the wind. She stood where she used to lie prone, closed her eyes. "I did what I could," she said aloud. The wind answered, not forgiveness, not condemnation. Just continuation. At dusk, she received one final message from Maria. "We're holding the line. I hear your voice when it gets loud. Thank you for staying." Ellen sat on the steps of the hospital and watched the sky change color. She understood then what redemption actually looked like. It wasn't erasing the past. It wasn't being absolved. It was choosing, every day, to act with care despite the weight of memory. She stood, squared her shoulders, and walked back inside. Another patient needed her. And somewhere far away, another woman was standing watch, stronger because Ellen once stood alone and stayed anyway. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts.